To make a presentation this afternoon in one of the key issue forums, and I'm going to be talking about contagion, and it's subtitled Contagion: Making Sense of a New Marketing Epidemic. And the reason I believe this is so important is because I think we do need a new model of how advertising works. I think, we've moved very quickly in a short space of time from what we used to call the interruption model, which was basically about media weight and rational persuasion, to an engagement model. And those of you who were here a couple of years ago heard Joe Plummer speak, know that engagement is a great explanation of a lot of today's advertising. But it seems to me there's a kind of new kid on the block, and it's called contagious advertising. And this is advertising that works through getting people to talk about it. What it does is it encourages people to make connections, it creates buzz, it uses social media. And this is a very, very powerful tool that I think we don't understand well enough. One of the issues for me is we can understand contagion by looking at it in a sociological way. For example, we can look at it in terms of network connections, we can look at it in terms of social influences, and we can look at it in terms of social media. But I sometimes worry that if we spend so much time looking at how contagion happens, we might miss why it happens. And to me, the most important reason that contagion happens is because of great ideas. Great ideas that engage people, great ideas that inspire people, great ideas that excite people. They're ideas that actually cause people to get so excited, what they want to do with those ideas is talk to other people about them. And these are what are called social ideas. And a few years ago, Richard Dawkins wrote a book called The Selfish Gene. And one of the things he talked about were memes. And the whole idea of memes is that they're a little bit like a gene, but it's an idea that exists to replicate itself. It's basically a selfish replicator, something which has a purpose only to spread. Now, whether or not you believe in that theory, it's quite a useful way of thinking about how ideas spread, because what it encourages you to do is think about ideas in terms of their ability to engage and excite and inspire people. And if ideas engage and inspire people, what happens is that it engages a social response. So we've spent a lot of time in my company looking at a new area called social neuroscience to try and get a grip of how this actual process takes root and why ideas spread. And one of the most exciting ideas that's come out of social neuroscience is the idea of the social brain. And basically the social brain is a kind of shorthand for the way the brain has developed to cope with social interactions. Basically, human beings are social animals, so the brain exists to help us cope with social interactions. And one of the most fantastic capacities that we have as human beings is the power of empathy. I'm able, through the power of imaginative empathy, to enter your brain, to enter your mind, to actually experience what you're experiencing. Now that gives us a power way beyond our individual power, because if I ask you, do you think other people will find this idea exciting? Then that's a question that you're able to answer through the fact that you have empathy with other people. And this is an insight that we've leveraged as a market research company. And we developed a new tool that we call Infectious. And what Infectious is about is it's a way of asking people to rate and assess different ideas, advertising, brands, in terms of whether they think other people will get excited and inspired by them. And what it does is it uses visual online animations. So for example, we have an animation called Buzz, which is basically a room with a water cooler, which you as a respondent can populate with people talking about the idea. So all of these things are kind of expressed visually by you as the respondent. So I might show you a piece of advertising. I'd then say to you, well, how do you think other people are going to react to this? You would use these animations to tell me that. And what we found is that people are actually great at telling us whether or not they think ideas will spread. And they're able to identify the ideas that are contagious. Now, what we think this is going to do is give advertisers and marketers a great deal more power to understand what it is that actually causes contagion to happen. And the things that we believe are most important are, firstly, a sense of excitement. People need to feel excited, they need to feel inspired by ideas. A sense of awe is often a very important thing. And, Steve Jobs of Apple leverages this pretty well. I read a newspaper article recently that described Steve Jobs as a Pentecostal force, descending upon the multitude, bestowing his gifts upon the faithful. And this is what we've shorthanded it as numinosity. Not luminosity, but numinosity. And actually this comes out of religious literature, and it's the idea that certain concepts and beliefs have the power to enlighten us, to hold us in their thrall, to create a sense of awe. And the other thing that is terribly, terribly important in terms of creating social ideas is that the ideas that people feel empathetic to them, they will often believe are going to be empathetic to others. So if you can engage people and make them believe that those ideas are designed for them, they will probably spread those ideas. So it's kind of early days on this project, but we've done a big pilot project in the UK. We're going to roll this out and do a huge international project. We're going to look at brands, we're going to look at advertising, we're going to look at celebrities. We've already done some work looking at celebrities, and one of the things we found, for example, was that Obama, despite his low poll ratings here, if he stood for election in the UK, would probably win. That he's more contagious than our political leaders currently in the UK. So we can also use this measure, these infectious measures, to get a read on political ideas, political spokesmen, party leaders, potential presidents, the whole thing. So it's a really exciting time to be around in market research because there are so many great ideas. We've had the whole kind of cognitive neuroscience thing with emotion, the work of Damasio and Joseph Ledoux and Gerald Zaltman. Social neuroscience is kind of the new frontier. And what we believe is that it's actually the key to understanding how people interact, how social interaction happens, and also how ideas happen. I heard some people today talking about new models of advertising. And I think a lot of people play lip service to the whole idea of emotion in advertising and talk about the fact that linear rational models are a thing of the past. But I saw a couple of presentations today where companies really said that the rational linear models, persuasion models, were outmoded, but really proposed models that were essentially linear. So one company was talking about a new engagement model, but they were starting with awareness and ending with advocacy. Now, if that's not a linear model, I don't really know what is. To me, there's a little bit more to this than just taking the first few chapters of Blink and trying to apply them. That I think we've really got to take a view that things have changed pretty fundamentally, and that the way that we used to think human beings made decisions and the way that we used to think that communication happened just ain't so anymore. So it's no good taking the old research models and just kind of adding a little bit of emotional measurement. You've got to go pretty basic and change them quite fundamentally. And it's a new paradigm. Paradigm is a great cliche, but like most cliches, they have a lot of truth in them. That you have to really engage with a whole new way of thinking about how advertising works, about how communication works, about what brands are for. And I'm seeing evidence that people are scratching the surface, which is great, but people are basically still using the same old questions, the same old questionnaire formats. One of the most obvious things that we need to do is to move to non-verbal questioning. And with the product that we've developed, all of our questioning is non-verbal. We use visual animations online. People can engage with them. They're not prone to post-rationalize. What they do is they give an unmediated answer, and they tell us basically how they feel about something. And to us, that's the way forward.